Hey guys, how's it going? PrimeKero here, and today we have had the Street Fighter V story details uploaded online via Cap Community. We saw the trailer for the cinematic story, and this left some questions because it said that story mode, or the cinematic story mode, would be released mid-summer as a free update. So we were thinking, if that's the case, is the game being released without a story? But a really good thread put up on Steam Community by Cap Community explained a lot of this, and there are going to be two main components to the story experience. The first will be the character stories, which is what I can only assume is very similar to essentially what it was on Street Fighter 4. We have tiny snapshots of essentially art screens like the Super Street Fighter 4 pictures, and it's going to be you pick a character, kind of like an arcade, you play through their storyline, and it's obviously got some background information on basically their background story and what their relationships are with some characters. It's all been illustrated by the renowned Japanese illustrator Bengus, who's worked on quite a few Capcom titles in the past, which is quite nice. The artwork is quite nice for this. Admittedly, it's kind of like a traditional story arcade mode, I think, which is cool. I mean, at the end of the day, you want arcade in there in some, in some fashion. So this is obviously an easier way to do it. So more about each character's background. However, the second aspect to the story is the cinematic story expansion, which for the first time, I think, in the franchise history, there's going to be a proper cinematic story. This will be having Street Fighter rendered cutscenes as a free content update in June 2016, which, well, it's pretty much never really happened before. We have rival battles in Street Fighter 4, but that's not really cutscenes as such. In the same kind of way as these are like proper CGI cutscenes, whereas they were in-game models. That's quite the difference. And as I said, it's a free update in June 2016, and it's going to fill in the gap between Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 3, and basically explains the gap between them and what happens with the characters, which is quite nice because obviously in the Street Fighter universe we are quite used to having a relatively convoluted and hard to understand storyline, and people who don't necessarily follow the storyline because they're not a big Street Fighter fan, they're not going to know really where the chronology lies between the other games, so they're going to try and fill in the gaps between 4 and 3 here, which is nice. From the trailer we can see that M. Bison and Shadow Lee are obviously going to be a main focus of the story, but barring that, there's not really much that they've explained and shown us. We know by the story that obviously Sagat's being dethroned as the second in command, or one of the kings, and that's obviously being replaced by Fang, who's essentially number 2. But primarily what we know is we have the cinematic story expansion, which is coming out in June, which will be fully rendered cutscenes as a free content update, filling the gaps between 4 and 3, which is really interesting because we've not had that before. Not much else has been announced, but this is quite a lot already. So considering we knew nothing about the story mode beforehand, we now know that we're going to get essentially a traditional arcade mode and kind of like almost a Mortal Kombat styled cutscene cinematic story. Now, if we're going to be playing it like Mortal Kombat, where you have one character as a chapter and you play through a couple of fights and then you move on to the next character, we do not know. They've not told us much about it. All we know is it's going to include cutscenes and it's going to go deep into the Street Fighter mythology and storyline and background between all the characters. I'm very interested to see how they develop this. That's all the information we have for now. I hope this is of some interest to you guys. I'll put the link in the description, and I will keep you guys posted with any new information that comes up in relation to the Street Fighter V story mode, any balance changes, or when the next beta is, for example. I'll make sure to post it up here. But anyway, for now, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and this is PrimeKero signing out.